Hey, welcome back. It's Captain Eric with Tell Me About It. Appreciate you tuning in. Today I'm back working on the boat. I'm always working on the boat, always doing something on the boat. Um, Today I'm going to replace the rigging tube on my 2021 Yamaha F300. Right now it's cracked, kind of close to the motor, and it allows salt water, probably other debris in there. Salt water, a love-hate relationship with it. It just gets in everywhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace that rigging tube. I've done this a couple times before. This one seems like it'll be pretty straightforward. There's no hydraulic lines or anything like that that I have to deal with. It should be battery positive, battery negative, the electrical connections, and then the fuel line. Fuel line might be the outlier because I'm going to have to pinch it off so I don't get fuel everywhere, but I think that should be just fine. So I'll show you what I'm working on over here. So as we come over here, you can see right here, this is the rigging tube and it's cracked right here. See a lot of these that are cracked. Sun, use, time, leaving the motor trimmed up and leaving it pinched, uh, all of that. So what my plan is I'm going to disconnect this. This is just a rubber grommet, and I'll show you this as I go. I'm going to disconnect this. Inside here, I have the battery positive and negative. I'm going to get rid of those and take them off. And then fuel hose and electrical fittings. I'm going to feed them all through this tube. I'm going to take the old tube off. I'm going to measure it. I have some new tube, which is made, it's MPI outboard rigging tube. About 5 feet of it. It's what the local marine store had. It's series 127, which is black. What's on there now is gray. But this is black. Series 126 is gray, but I don't have that. They didn't have that at the marine store. So I just bought it there. So my plan is to take that off, measure it, and then I'm going to cut this roughly the same size. Looking at how this is bent, I might cut it a little bit shorter just because it looks like it's binding in there because it's too long, but I'll figure that out when I get there. And then I'm going to put it back together. As I go along, I'll show you some of the steps. Reason I'm making this video is I didn't see a lot of videos out there explaining how to do this process. So um, I was looking for a video, looking for information on this specific motor, and there just wasn't anything on YouTube, wasn't anything on Facebook. I looked in some of the web forums and I didn't find anything. So I thought, you know what, I'll make this video since I'm doing it, and I'll take you with me along every step of the way. So I've got the spreader lights on my boat, giving me some light back here. I've got some extra light as well. Um, Socket sets, mark the battery cables and all that. And we'll just take you with me as we go. So stay tuned. Thank you very much. All right, I'm going to show you what I disconnected in here, and there's not great light in the storage unit, but I'm going to try my best. I have a light here. One of the things I didn't mention in the beginning is I disconnected the batteries. I had the spreader light on for a minute just to kind of check out what I was doing. You can see now the boat's dead behind me. I just wanted to disconnect the batteries because I would hate to short out the power lines or the power cables on the motor and cause some kind of electrical issue, especially on these newer motors. Like I said, this is a 2021, so I don't want to fry anything important. So disconnected all of the power, and I even tested it with a tester to make sure that there was no power there. So here's what I disconnected so far, and I'm going to try to do my best here. You can see the power cables right inside here. I disconnected both of those. I did not have a marker. I thought I had a marker, but I didn't. So what I did to note which battery cable was which, as you can see, they're both black. I wanted to know which one went where. I used this awl, or this, I guess a pick, and I made a scratch on this housing, and I made a scratch on the metal to make sure that I got those back in the right space. The other thing I disconnected was down here. Not easy to do with only two hands. But you can see down in here, there's a power connector, and it's just, I don't know exactly what that's called, but it's an automotive type connector. You pull the tab and it releases. And then up here, the only thing I really have left is the fuel line. This is a fuel filter, and oops, normally mounts right up here, and then this mounts in front of it. I'm just going to pull the line off here. This is just a zip tie. My plan is to pull the line off here. I've had this off before, and I don't remember if fuel comes out or not. But if fuel does come out, I have a vice grip, and my plan then is just to pinch this off with a vice grip until it stops leaking fuel, and then I'm going to move on to the tube. So I'll be back when I get to this tube. All right, that went well. There wasn't much fuel in this line, really at all. I got a little gas on my hands, but that was it. I'm going to leave this sitting right here so that canister doesn't empty out. But really, I just clipped with my trusty clippers. I just clipped the zip tie that was holding it on, pried this off. There was a little bit of gas. My feet pretty much soaked it up, so that's good. Next step here, I'm going to cut this. This is just a rubber grommet that the wires go into. I'm going to cut this and pull this back, pull the hose back. I'm going to cut the zip tie and pull the hose back so I can see exactly how these wires go through the grommet. It's important to keep the wires going through the grommet the same way that they were, because if you get them if you get them wrong, they'll twist inside the motor, or twist when you're turning. So you don't want that. So let me cut this off, and I'll be right back. So I got the zip tie cut off, and this really just comes apart. If you can look here, and you can see that this comes off the top because it's a collar. I don't know if you can see this or not, but it comes off the top, hypothetically. There we go. And it's just a clam, so it's two pieces, and it just fits together just like that. So now that I have that off, the tubing comes off, and then there's another rubber grommet inside here that has all the wires. So next step is I'm probably going to um, cut this off so that I can see what I'm dealing with inside here and get these wires out. So to get this, I got that collar off. Now to get this rubber collar out, it doesn't just pull out. Some outboards I've dealt with in the past have had a seam that runs right through here. You take off a bolt or two, and then the top of it comes off, and you can access all of this. What this has is two 10mm nuts, or not nuts, they're bolts, and they fit right in here. So once you pull the 10mm bolts from here, this pulls right out. So from here, I now need to document which wires run where inside this rubber coupler, and I'm going to pull all of those wires out and redo this sleeve. Once you have this big rubber, I guess I'm going to call it a plug maybe, taken out, I like to take a picture of where all of these wires come through. As you can see, you could hypothetically get them in the wrong spots. And if you do that, you're going to have a problem with things twisting and whatnot. So what I did is I used my phone and I just took several pictures so I can make sure the electrical connector goes here, the fuel connector goes here, and the battery connector goes here. So next thing I'm going to do, and if you can see me splitting this apart, I'm going to split this apart, get this rubber plug off and this fitting, and then the tube should unthread from the other end, and I'll pull the tube off, measure it, and get ready to cut a new one. Well, I'm not entirely sure what happened to my AirPods and my microphone, but they're not connecting. So I was able to get this collar off, or this collar disconnected. I was really hoping that these were screws. They're bolts with very little nuts on the very back side. I was able to get the nuts with the vice grips and then get them from the outside, but it took all of the length of my arms to do it. I don't think I'm not 100% sure I'm going back to bolts and nuts on that, just because it's a huge pain to take off. Anyway, after this collar just comes right out of here, and now I'm just going to slide this whole tube right off the other end, and then I will have it all taken apart, and I will be able to remove the tube from the collar, and then I'll be able to put a new tube on there. So anyway, bolts and nuts, not a lot of fun. But it's all the joy of working with the boat. So anyway, we'll be right back. I'm going to take this tube off, and then we will measure it, and we'll figure out where we're going. All right, so here's what I have. I use these same clippers because I had them. I guess like a hacksaw would work too. I have the old piece and I have the new piece. It's hard to show you, but I laid them out on the tailgate of my truck, made sure that they're the same length. One of the things that you can do if these are longer and maybe with a different style of tubing to get the hoses through, and I wasn't sure how much this would compress, but sometimes I'll take zip ties and I'll make like a big loop of zip ties, and then I'll compress this to make it shorter. And that way, this is only about 3 feet, but if it was longer, I would compress it and make it shorter. That way I could push my wires through or pull my wires through. These 3 feet I should be able to push through. If I can't push them through, I'm going to use a rope. And I'll tie a rope down in here, and I'll pull the wires one at a time back through, like parachute cord or something like that. I have no shortage of rope in my boat. So this, I don't know if you can see that. It is threaded on the inside. Most of these are. They're threaded. So I don't know if you can see it or not, but they're threaded. So this will just come in here. That's why you need the right size. When I picked this out, I measured the outside diameter with a caliper, and this was my old stuff was 2.31 inches. This is 2.37 inches. So now I'm just going to twist this in here, and then I'll feed all my cables back through. So let me get back after that. Oh, and then I'll come back with my cables threaded through, and I'll show you what that looks like. So that was actually pretty easy. I just took the cables, I fed them in. This electrical connector is pretty big, so I wasn't sure how that was going to go. But I just fed them all in together, and then I just flexed the tube back and forth, and I just shoved all the cables right through the tube, and it's all on there. So now really the rest of this is just putting this all back together. So I'm going to focus on that now, and then it's just put the clamp on, and then just put everything back together. So let me get after that, and I'll get back with you. I'm going to show you this real quick. So I got these all back through there the same exact way they were, and everything is fit back together. This is the bracket that those two bolts go into. The two, I think they're 10 millimeter. This slides on here, and this keeps everything together in one piece. So if you take this off and you can't get this to come apart, it's because this collar is on. Once this collar comes off, it opens up wide. So if you're struggling with that, sometimes if it's never been taken apart, this collar, it's not intuitive to know that this has to come off to get that to come off. But anyway, so keep that in mind. So once you get these two 10 millimeter bolts back on this bracket, then I like to start the hose a little bit on that rubber grommet, because it's just easier to start. You have it in two hands. But once you get that, then you can come on here and you can wiggle slash force the tube onto the rubber grommet. And right there, I've got it about as good as I can get it. Sometimes I like to use a little bit of Windex, maybe even spit a little bit, but just get something on there so that it slides on a little bit easier, because it is super tight. But you just get that on there, and I've routed my wires. Now it's just as simple as plugging everything back in and then crossing our fingers and hoping it works. So I'm going to plug everything back in, and then I'll wrap it up. I'll tell you how long this took from start to finish, and we just kind of close it up from there. All right, so I think we're done. I'm probably super flushed out with the light here, but I have it put back together. I turned the battery back on. I didn't start it, obviously, but I did turn the key on, make sure that all the gauges work and all of that. A couple things to note about putting it back together. I guess the hardest part about this whole job, it took me like an hour and 3 minutes to do the whole thing. I went from this old rusty busted tube to a better tube here. A couple things to note. You're going to need 10, 11, and 12 millimeter sockets. Going to need some zip ties to put the fuel filter back on. In a perfect world, I probably would have gotten a new fuel filter and done that while I was in there, but I have to do the 100-hour service here in a month anyway, so I'll just do it then. The other thing, this zip tie, the one that was on here was pretty substantial. I could get a more substantial zip tie, but I think what I'm going to do is get a stainless hose clamp. I just think that would be better on there than just a zip tie. This collar is what holds the whole tube assembly to the boat itself. As far as the bottom flange here, my plan for this, I'm just going to go with bolts probably, and just do bolts on here, and let it be, or not bolts, but screws, because trying to get to the back of those bolts for the nuts was a pain in the butt. So anyway, that's all I have. So if you enjoyed this little video, by all means, hit subscribe, like, watch me for more videos. If you want to hear something about it, just say tell me about it, and I'll tell you all about it. So thank you very much for tuning in. Hope you have a great one. It's Captain Eric from southeastern Georgia. Take care.